right, so we are taking notes today. So as usual, you'll need either a pen and piece of paper, or you can type it into your iPad the way you would usually type your notes. So get ready, we're going to start. First things first, let's do the do now that you see here. You'll have some time, but remember you can hit the pause button if you would like more time. The do now question asks you to brainstorm a list of different groups that your community could be divided into. And my examples were men and women and rich and poor. There are lots of different things that you could have written for this. Maybe you said adults and children. Maybe you said different like physical features like hair color or race. There's so many different things you could have said, personality traits, all kinds of stuff. But when it comes to ancient Greek society, what they were actually divided into, the actual two groups, was citizens and non-citizens. Here's the title of today's notes: Greek Society and Economy. We already mentioned that society was split into citizens and not citizens. Unfortunately, no matter where in Greece you were, no matter which city-state you were in, women were never considered to be citizens. And that's unfortunate, obviously. But however, depending on the city-state you were in, women were treated a little bit better or had better rights. For example, Sparta is known as a city-state that was quite progressive with its treatment and respect of women. To this day, women are still fighting, even in the United States, to be treated the same as men. For example, you might have heard that women still only make about 79 cents for every dollar that a man makes, but that's another story entirely. And so, like we said, society was split into people who were citizens and people who were non-citizens. So they didn't have the rights and responsibilities of getting to be a citizen. In a second, we'll talk about which groups of people, beyond just gender, um, about who got to be a citizen and who didn't. Tenant farmers were a group of people who were considered citizens, but they were like the lowest of all the citizens. To be a tenant means that you're living or working on somebody else's property, like if you're a tenant in an apartment. So a tenant farmer is no different. It's a person who's renting or using somebody else's land to grow crops on it. So even though you're going to make some money and get some food and stuff, it's not nearly as profitable as if you own the land yourself. Another group of people in ancient Greek society were the Medics, who were resident aliens. And when I say aliens, I don't mean little green men from another planet. The word aliens actually just means somebody who's from another place. So it's people who were basically like immigrants who have settled in one of the Greek city-states or near one of the Greek city-states. So because they're from somewhere else, they're going to be treated and looked at differently. And one thing they don't get is citizenship. Medics were not considered citizens. And of course, another group of non-citizens would be the slaves. There were quite a few slaves in the Greek city-states. Slavery literally means owning other people as if they were property, not human beings at all, as tragic as that sounds. So now we're going to take what we just learned and incorporate information that we have previously learned to create a social class pyramid for ancient Greece. So go ahead and create this somewhere. Notice that there are 6 sections within the pyramid. Make sure you put the title of the pyramid. And then in the top right, you'll see I have a sort of legend, almost like when we would do legends or map keys for maps. And this one is to help you understand something that I'm going to do in the pyramid that I'd like you to recreate as well. So go ahead and make the blank pyramid, the title, and the legend in the corner. So basically, in every Greek city-state, the people who were at the top of the social class pyramid were always the aristocracy. You'll remember from months ago that aristocrats are like the rich upper class people or the nobles, and so they're going to have a lot more control over what's happening in their city-state. But you'll notice that because they're at the top of the pyramid, sure, they get a lot of power, but their numbers are smaller. Because as you go down in the social class pyramid, you have less power but more people. Next, we have farmers who are powerful because they're land and property owners. So these are people who farm and make money off of their own land. Under the farmers are the tenant farmers. And like we just learned about, tenant farmers are people who don't own their own land, they're borrowing it or renting it, I should say, and making less money than the actual farmers. But you can see that these three groups we've now put into our social class pyramid all have those little asterisks or stars around the names. And if we look at our legend, we know that that means that these three groups, as long as they were men, were considered citizens in ancient Greece. And so now the rest of the pyramid are groups that were not citizens. So if you're a woman or a child, so not yet an adult, who is a member of the aristocracy or, the daughter of a farmer or the wife of a tenant farmer, etc., you're higher than the, two groups that will be below you. You're like the highest of the non-citizens, but still, you're a non-citizen. Next, we have the metics, and it's one of our vocab words. The metics are the resident aliens, which means that essentially they were immigrants or originally not from Greece, and now they've settled there and live there permanently, and so they are not citizens. However, you'll notice that the women and children and metics in our social class pyramid both have those hyphens before and after, and if we look at our legend, we know that means that even though they're non-citizens, they were free. The next group of people at the very bottom of the social class pyramid are not citizens and not free. And obviously I'm talking about the slaves who are at the very bottom. When we studied the geography of Greece, we mentioned that they don't have any major river systems. So in order to, have enough food, since they couldn't grow a lot of it in their own land, they had to do one of several different things, or a combination of a couple different things. Some Greek city-states would conquer other groups of people and take their food. Some would form colonies in other places to, in a more friendly way, take their food. And another option was to depend on trading with other places, usually around the Mediterranean Sea.